Morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 6 in the book of Deuteronomy. We're going to be in Deuteronomy chapter 2 here today. Here's the context. I'm going to ask the question is, do you want the promised land? Which seems like an easy answer, but we'll get to the results near the end. So here's the context. There's 100,000 men of war, that is 20 years old and older, have perished in the wilderness as a discipline from the Lord for not believing the provision of the Lord. And this would presumably include similarly aged women. However, he seems to hold the men in particular responsibility, just like he did Adam in the Garden of Eden. All right, so the men of war are 20-year-olds and older. Their 20-year-olds are included in the census. They pay an adult tax, and they're termed men of war. So 20 is the age of accountability in Israel. So the point is, everybody of the age of accountability has died off in the desert. So, of interest, he doesn't smite them. He basically says to the people who said, "We don't want your promised land." He says, "Okay, I'm going to give you an answer to that. I'm not going to give you the promised land." So, all those 19-year-olds and younger, they've grown up. So the nation of Israel is now from aged 0 to 49. All the older rebellious have died off. And here we are, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 16. As soon as all the men of war had perished, 20-year-olds and older, and were dead from among the people, the Lord said to me, "You are today to cross the border of Moab at Ar. When you approach the territory of the people of Ammon, don't harass them or contend with them, for I will not give you any of the land of the people of Ammon as a possession, because I have given it to the sons of Lot for possession." It also counted as the land of Rephaim. Rephaim formerly lived here, but the Ammonites called them Zazumim, a people of great and many and as tall as the Anakim. But the Lord destroyed them before the Ammonites, and they dispossessed them and settled in their place, as he did for the people of Esau, who lived in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites before them, and they dispossessed them and settled in their place even to this day. As for the Avim, another people group who lived in the villages as far as Gaza, the Toram, who came to Ketor, destroyed them and settled them in their place. So then he says to the Israelites, "Rise up, set out on your journey, and go over to the valley of Arnon. Behold, I have given you into your hand Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to take possession, contend with him in battle. This day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you on the peoples who are under the whole heaven, who shall hear the report of you and shall tremble and be in anguish because of you." So the Lord is repeating, don't mess with the Moabites. Those are the descendants of Lot. Don't mess with the Edomites. They're the descendants of Esau. Now, both of these guys were really knuckleheads if you read the Bible. And the Lord's saying, I'm being kind to them for my own reasons. So you hear about them and you kind of read about them and you wonder why God is good to them. And even now, 500 years later for both of these guys, God basically still has them in the apple of his eye. And both clearly are undeserving. Now, write this down. The Moabites and Edomites, they didn't receive God's goodness because of their goodness. They received God's goodness because of the goodness of God. So God's goodness to each of them was based on his overall sovereign plan. And second point is he doesn't forget it after a year or two. So they did not merit it by their wonderfulness, and neither does Israel. So being in the kind favor of God is, of course, it's a desirable place to be. Now, what are the characteristics of God? He's the faithful one. He's the one. There's a Hebrew word called hesed, which means this ongoing, steadfast, unwavering kindness of God, the faithfulness of God to undeserving knuckleheads, humans. So these two, Moabites and Edomites, are the descendants of Lot and the descendants of Esau. They are demonstrated the knucklehead part of the equation. God's demonstrating the faithful part of the equation. Okay, so this is the whole story of the Bible, Hesed, where God's faithful to this unfaithful group of people. And if we could fix ourselves, if we were faithful ourselves and we could have fixed our problems, there'd be no reason for this big rescue operation that is the whole Bible. So we want the right things. Maybe we do. Do you want the right things is the question today. Do you want the promised lands? Do you want it metaphorically? It's easier to sit here and criticize the Israelites saying, you guys did wrong. I would have gone in. Um, and this requires an ongoing relationship and listening and obeying, and the Lord's choice in choosing some to go. So why does God choose the Israelites? Is it because of their shininess? No, no one is shiny before God. Not me, not Moses, not you. We're all going to need some help. So let's be careful where we insert ourselves in this story. We say, I'm reading the story about Moses and Joshua, and I'm going to be one of those great guys. No. If there's a role for a knucklehead in the story, that's probably you. That's probably me. We probably don't star in this show, just like the Israelites didn't star in this show. God's the star. So we are probably going to require the undeserving mercy of God. And we probably should come to the story humbly and gratefully. We probably should obey the Lord when he says, rise up, set out, and I've given this into your hand. So the Lord is all this time working. I'm working for you. I'm working in you. So he's coordinating two actions of God. One is the actions of God by obeying and moving and rising up and setting out, and the sovereignty of God's action and the dignity of allowing our own action. So he says, do these things, and the people have an opportunity to respond. All right, so I was thinking about Lot and how God is sometimes kind to the undeserving. So God was kind to Lot because of his relationship with Abraham. And I was thinking of this occasional principle of God, that if God was similarly disposed to you, who would you ask God also to be kind for? Abraham kept asking the Lord to be kind to Lot, and he was. So if God was similarly disposed to you, who would you ask God on your behalf of? So I don't think it's inappropriate to beg God a little bit for a similar kindness. Perhaps you could ask for some young person who is, before the age of accountability. Or perhaps you ask for an old, rebellious, and undeserving people. Those are the people that God specializes in. Well, let's humbly ask for ourselves, why, God, are you so good to me? Let's humbly ask for others. Who else would you have me help bring into your kingdom? And I think that the final question for today is, who do you want? Do you want the promised land? And kind of by coattails is who would you also want it for? All right, let's put ourselves in the story today. Thanks for listening.